The Ottawa Chief of Police came out and said some pretty nasty things about the Freedom Trucker Convoy, calling them all sorts of names, saying that they were engaged in duplicitous activities, and now the Freedom Trucker Convoy has responded. We're going to take a look at this press conference that came out from Lincoln Jay. He's a reporter, journalist over at Rebel News, and you can see here that he sat down with these two gentlemen from the Freedom Trucker Convoy for a press release, and we're going to go through it in detail. But what are they responding to? If you missed the video about the 3 techniques that the Chief of Police is going to be using in conjunction with Canadian law enforcement, you can check that out here. We did a deep dive of Police Chief Sloly's press briefing. And so he is detailing for us they're going to be doing a lot to try to put an end to this convoy finally. And this came out on February 4th at 9 a.m. The Ottawa Police Service and its partners are doing everything they can to restore order and prevent unlawful activity. What are they focused on? Things like unlawful acts, harassment, mischief, hate crimes, noise violations, like honking a horn. And they say that we know additional people are coming and that we're going to be really working hard to start improving safety effective immediately. And to accomplish this, there are 3 techniques they're going to be using. Number 1 is going to be a surge of police officers around downtown Ottawa. Number 2 is going to be roadblocks. And number 3 is going to be an intelligence operation where they're going to be charging truckers and anybody involved with a number of different violations, traffic violations, literally trying to sort of wreck their licenses so that they can't continue to maintain their livelihood. And so the Freedom Trucker Convoy have assembled these 2 gentlemen to respond for us. We're going to listen in. The gentleman on the left in the blue is going to be talking first, and we can get a name, but we don't really get many credentials from him, but he's going to be making some great points, right, about why they are in the right here, responding directly to what we heard from Sloly.
Good evening. My name is Tom Morazzo. I'm the Police Liaison for the Freedom Convoy 2022.
Police Liaison.
The statements and actions by the Chief of Police has deliberately set the conditions for potential violence against the peaceful protesters of the Freedom 2022 convoy. Although the tax-paying citizens of Ottawa call this their home, ordinary tax-paying Canadians call this their nation capital. The legacy media has intentionally misled the public into believing the freedom movement has been responsible for crime.
And we're going to get into that further on in this video, saying that the CBC and others have actually caused the public to think that the truckers are behind any of the violence, and they're not. It's other people, as we're going to get evidence of here in a minute. But he's saying the point that this gentleman is making is that we have a right to be here, right? This is the nation's capital. This is Ottawa. This is the central house of governance for the entire nation. And so we have a right to be here just like anybody else does. So don't tell us that you live in Ottawa and you have to restore your city and to throw the rest of Canada out of there. That's our capital too. And we have a right to be there when the federal government is infringing upon our rights. This gentleman continues and he's saying, we as the Freedom Convoy unequivocally disavow all violence. It's not even up for debate. And any groups who promote it are not welcome here and they're not associated with us. So please take that down on record.
The OPS is fully aware many of their ongoing investigations were initiated as a result of the truckers reporting incidents that they have witnessed. This protest has been peaceful. We have been cooperating and will continue to cooperate with the OPS and PPS. Anyone exhibiting violence or aggressive behavior should be held individually accountable. The Freedom Convoy movement does not condone aggression or violence. Groups inciting violence are not affiliated with us in any way.
No violence whatsoever coming from our camps. And in fact, anything that is really being reported about anything going on is coming from the truckers. He said that at the beginning of his statement. He said that we're the people reporting it. We're saying this is happening, that's happening over there. And so if there is any reporting going on, it's largely because we're telling you about it. And remember, right, when you have a protest, there's going to be counter protesters. There will always be people who want to come in and cause a ruckus and sort of infiltrate the lawful, peaceful protest. And you see this going both directions, and we've talked about it here. And so this gentleman is saying, hey, we have opened up a line. I'm a liaison with law enforcement. We've been trying to communicate with them about this, but they are not working with us. They're treating this like it's a hostage situation. They are not even working with our demands or our requests, rather, in any way, shape, or form. Here's what he says.
Since my arrival, I have gone to great lengths to build rapport and a strong working relationship with local law enforcement. To a large degree, that has been successful with the OPP and the PPS. However, the same cannot be said for the OPS, Ottawa Police Service leadership, that I have been speaking with. In my negotiations with them, they have chosen to take the posture of a hostage negotiation, rather than working to a safe, peaceful, and responsible relationship that may exist for months to come.
So he's delineating two distinctions here. He's saying, number one, that working with the sort of the boots on the ground law enforcement officials has been great. Very accommodating, very easy to work with. Things are going well. But the leadership has just been absolutely terrible. The people that we have to talk to actually get anything done, they are treating this like this is a hostage situation. Like we are terrorists, the Taliban from Al-Qaeda. Actually, the United States was pretty okay with them, left them $80 billion of gear over there. But the whole point is, right, saying that we're trying to sort of come to a reasonable conclusion. We've got liaisons to cooperate. Let's just talk this through. And they're just saying, nope, we don't negotiate with terrorists. Go, well, that's weird because we're not terrorists. We're Canadian citizens, and we're engaged in peaceful protests.
Safety.
This continues on. He talks about safety being very, very important, which was a talking point from the other side. The government saying, oh, well, they're going to block hospitals and they're going to stop necessary services from being dispersed throughout our city. Here's what he says in response to that.
Safety is a fundamental goal of all members of the convoy, the police, and the public. We have worked tirelessly to maintain safe corridors for all forms of emergency vehicles in order to ensure there is no interruptions to emergency services. We have agreed to keep specific roads wide open at the request of the Ottawa Police Services. These are the olive branches we have extended.
There you go.
In return, we have received nothing but inflammatory accusations and misinformation perpetrated by the Ottawa Police leadership.
I would go so far as to say it's a disinformation, as we're about to find out. It's intentionally malicious and intending to deviate people off of the truth. And so he says safety's been the number one priority, sort of carrying this over from the prior comment that they're working well with people who are on the ground, police, law enforcement there. Sounds like things have been going, moderately well, not blocking hospitals or fire stations or anything like that. We've been openly willing to cooperate and extend an olive branch, but they've just turned this down. They say we're terrorists and we don't negotiate with people who take hostages. And so now what he says is that that statement that came out from the police chief is really trying to manipulate the entire conversation, trying to rebrand this movement into something that it isn't, and that is really inappropriate. Here is what he says in continuation.
The convoy has the word freedom in its title. The statement from earlier today by the Ottawa Chief of Police is an attempt to rebrand an entire worldwide movement as a criminal organization. We have also consistently been on the receiving end of much hostility from some citizens of Ottawa, but it pales in comparison to the love and the support and generosity as proven by our Adopt a Trucker program, where citizens of Ottawa have provided hot showers, warm beds, and home-cooked meals.
Adopt a Trucker program. He's talking about, yes, some people in the city are unhappy about this, but the vast majority of the experience is that they are experiencing have been love. People are very excited about that, about them being here and sort of supportive of their causes. And we talked about this on our live show that we have every weekday. Hope you subscribe and join us on that up here, where we listened to this woman, I think she's Polish, who brought a bunch of something delicious over to the truckers there. And this is what he's describing. This is the scene in reality, but that's not what you're hearing about in the media.
Look at that
puppy.
Woman from Vancouver.
Thank you. Show me what's happening.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is from Polish, from Polish store.
Yes.
From Toronto.
Oh, look what they're bringing in. They're eating better than us.
Looks delicious.
Wow, I wish I was a trucker, man.
That's a pretty good deal. That's right? Looks like it's a pretty good setup. And so that's what's happening. That's the reality of boots on the ground. And so what the police chief is saying is not reality. He's trying to reframe this as a criminal organization, saying we're going to get everybody involved in this, the entire government, to shut this criminality down. Ridiculous. And so he does communicate that in addition to facing, accusations from the police, accusations from the media, they're facing actors behind the scenes in Silicon Valley that are trying to shut down their funding, but rest assured they've set up a new one over at Give, Send, Go.
We have secured an alternative platform, Give, Send, Go, where supporters can be assured their donations will be effectively dispersed to members of the convoy. We believe the earlier statements made by the Ottawa Police leadership related to funding, supporting, enabling unlawful and harmful activity by protesters to be directed to outside groups,
not the truckers,
that are regularly associated with violent behavior and destruction of public property and private property.
Counter-protesters.
This is not what our freedom movement stands for.
Saying that there may be other individuals out there who are engaged in these things. And so, yes, the media is reporting, there was something problematic that happened there. He's saying, I'm not contesting that. May actually be true, but it's not a trucker who is involved in that. It was somebody else from an outside source. And this carries on. He says that they categorically deny anything nefarious.
While I appreciate the Chief of Police being under enormous pressure from the Mayor and Council, we agree with him in his earlier statement that this is not an issue to be resolved by the police. Rather, it is an issue to be resolved by the politicians. When the Chief of Police in his statement said that the Freedom Convoy are extremely committed to resisting efforts to end the demonstration safely, and that the situation is volatile and dangerous, that is categorically and demonstrably false.
Yep.
The only thing causing volatility and danger in Ottawa, are irresponsible public statements meant to put pressure on the Freedom Convoy.
Yep.
I would challenge anyone to provide examples of a more peaceful demonstration on this scale.
Yep. And we've been talking about it several times this week. We've followed Viva and many others on the streets, interacting with people, interfacing with the protesters, and it's always been nothing but peace and love, actually holding hands and singing songs in circles. It's a beautiful thing. So, all right. So he is absolutely right about that. Now we change over to the gentleman in the green. Now, this guy's interesting. His name is Dany, I believe, and he's somebody who resigned from the RCMP, which is sort of like the Canadian version of the U.S. FBI.
My name is Dany Bulford. I resigned from the RCMP over the mandates, and I am currently the liaison for the Adopt a Trucker Volunteer Coordination Center. Throughout this last week.
So the RCMP, I'm not Canadian. I didn't know too much about it. But as I mentioned, it is sort of the Canadian version of the FBI. Big organization. You can see here they've got law enforcement at the federal level, which is basically what the FBI does here. They've got 150 municipalities. Despite the name, they're not actually on horses, right? Not actually a mounted horse police service, which is very good to clarify. And so this guy used to work for that agency, and now he has not working for that agency because he is somebody who is protesting the mandates. They had a mandate, said, I don't want to comply with that, left. And now he's participating in the protests. And here is what he says with all of his credentials and his background and somebody who used to be trusted by the government. Here's what he has to say.
I've been working closely with the police in efforts to maintain open lines of communication because police and public safety is paramount, and it always will be to me. I would like to inform you of 2 specific examples of deliberate false information published by legacy media. On Wednesday, February 3rd, I forwarded information to the Ottawa Police Service, the RCMP, and the Parliamentary Protective Service about a male local to Ottawa who I know to be a security concern.
Maybe from his
I
prior
forwarded
experience?
social media posts about fighting cops, being arrested at the protest area, claiming to be a terrorist, and carrying weapons. Further to the social media posts, further to his social media posts, he advised not to go to the Truckers Convoy because it is evil, and that's what evil people do. And he was quoted at the bottom, "You get what you deserve, prepare for the worst."
Uh-oh. So let's do a recap on this one.
The various police liaisons thanked me for sharing this information.
So he sends this information over to the police. Police say, hey, thanks for sending it over. I'm a police liaison. He's our former RCMP, former FBI kind of a guy. And he is getting very good details about this individual who sounds like he's got some problematic, maybe mental issues. Somebody who thinks that, the whole movement is evil, saying things like prepare for the worst, you're going to get what you deserve, raises some red flags, the type of thing that you kind of look into. He does look into it, sends it over to law enforcement. They say, thanks for it. Then what happens? Well, he tells us.
I was made aware of a CBC article that was published on the 1st about 2 people that had been arrested and charged that were associated to the Freedom Convoy, despite no reports of such activity from any police liaisons during daily phone calls to discuss security policing concerns. The article in the CBC detailed that Andre J. Lacasse of Ottawa had been charged with carrying a weapon to a public meeting.
Okay, we're going to
Mr.
look at that.
Lacasse was the same person I had shared the intelligence with police about. The same person who told others not to attend the truck protest because they are evil people.
Wow.
The article also indicated another 29-year-old Ottawa man had been charged with mischief under $5,000, making it appear this man was also part of the convoy protest. However, it was reported to me that this was likely the same smashed building glass incident that had been reported to police by one of the truck drivers.
Wow. Okay, so he's saying I made one report, and I think other truckers made another report about 2 instances of violence or potential violence that might be problematic. And then what happens? He turns it over to the police. They forward it off. They make some arrests. They investigate it. And guess what the CBC reports? They report this. 2 men charged as protests continue in the nation's capital. Guess who? Andre Lacasse, the same guy that was just mentioned, and Matthew Dorkin, 29. Separate counts. And look what happens. Ottawa police have charged 2 men with offenses related to the ongoing protests. Okay, it's making it seem like they're part of the protesters. Over the past several days, there have been numerous, quote, reports, whatever that means, of vandalism, harassment, assault, threats against residents and property as thousands gather to protest mandates. On Sunday, police charged 37-year-old Lacasse carrying a weapon, 29-year-old man arrested. Police say it stemmed from an incident that occurred on Saturday. At the time, police officers said they did not arrest the man in order to avoid a larger confrontation. He's charged with mischief. All right, but it had nothing to do with the truckers. The truckers reported both of these things. A former RCMP agent notified them about this. And the CBC says, well, and it's related to these protests. and it is, because he was there, but he's not a part of it. It is a total scam. So they continue on and they say, look, yeah, we are in fact being vandalized, right? There are counter protesters. There are people vandalizing our stuff. It's not us doing it. And we're having to solve these problems on our own. You're welcome.
And I would just like to note that the CBC article also mentions vandalism, which is true. Many trucks have been vandalized and spray painted throughout the night, to the point where truckers and security volunteers are working to establish a community watch style patrol, not just for the trucks, but for the neighborhood that they are parked in. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time, and you're welcome that we're doing your job for you. He says that their trucks, their property has been vandalized, but they are creating their own solution. These groups, community watch teams that are monitoring the different parts of the city, not only for the truckers, but for the rest of the city, because the police have been asleep at the wheel. They've been busy figuring out how to put a stop to this. Certainly don't want to do it by negotiating or, having a conversation about ending a mandate. No. They're going to try to wait it out. They're going to do a surge of police officers. They're going to create blockades with concrete barriers, and they're going to go after men and women and their licenses, try to write tickets against them to make them uninsurable and maybe cause them to lose their job. That's the Canadian law enforcement in action. We're going to continue to follow this along. We have a live show that we do every weekday. I'd love it if you hit that subscribed button and joined us during those shows, because I look forward to seeing you on the next one.